We're good.
All right. Great. Welcome to Fresno City Toastmasters. I'm your president, Farron Jacobson. This is my last meeting as president before somebody else takes over. I will wait till elections to officially say that, I guess. Today's theme is National Hug Day. Welcome to our guests, Macy, Lori, and Michael, guest as well. Right? Okay. Yeah, let's start off with our mission statement, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of the agenda, if you have that with you. It says we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. That's what we do here at Toastmasters. It's not just a public speaking club, but it's also about leadership and personal growth. As far as business, we had our board meeting yesterday and we discussed elections. It looks like no one is running opposed. So we'll just, in a little bit, we'll go through the elections and say who's going for which position and elect our new board, which starts, we're actually taking next week off and then we'll start July, I don't know the date, like the 13th or something.
Correct.
Yeah, cool. There are also officer trainings, I believe July 10th. So I'll send the email, I'll resend everything out to the board that I still have. And I think that's it for new business, right? Oh, we discussed meeting in person. Sarah offered her space. We're still discussing that and deciding if that's gonna work for everybody. And it is downtown-ish, right, Sarah? Okay. So we'll discuss that probably at the later meeting in July.
Where is it, Sarah? Just so everybody knows.
The Visitor on Fulton would be the general area. It's kind of in between downtown and Tower, right in between.
Cool. Any other new business that I'm missing?
I just think just a transition on that, having I think Chanel was going to go or somebody's going to go in and crash one of the meetings that they do a hybrid, so that we can kind of get a good idea of what that's going to look like, because we have to have some sort of a online too for people that who aren't able to make it or too far or whatnot, that we have that. So we're right now we're learning that part of it, and I think when we go visit that, we'll get a better idea. So once we got that piece, then I think it's easier to logistically for Sarah's place.
Yeah, so hopefully by maybe end of July, we'll be meeting in that hybrid model in person plus Zoom, I expect. Cool. I guess let's hold the elections now, if everyone's good with that. So for president, Chanel West, everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye. She's not even raising her hand.
I don't think you get to vote for yourself.
For yourself?
Is that illegal?
Politicians do it all the time.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of us here, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. For Denny's record. All right, and VP of Education, myself.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And, oh my gosh. VP of Membership, Denise.
Aye.
Aye. VP of Public Relations, we had potentially said Taylor, she's not here. Do we still vote?
Should we vote her in, Denny, for not being here?
I don't.
Probably should talk to her first.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that empty, open. Secretary, Jenny Mason.
Aye.
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 Treasurer, Joey Myers.
Aye.
Aye.
And our new Sergeant at Arms, Sarah Dawson.
2 ayes.
Aye.
Oh,
All right, that is your new board.
Cool.
Exciting.
welcome everybody.
Great. Cool. Well, then with that, I'll pass it to the Toastmaster of the day, Denise DiBenedetto.
Thank you, Farron. I'm very excited to be Toastmaster today. It is International Hug Day. There are huggers and there are non-huggers. And I firmly stand with the first. I am definitely a hugger. I always have been. I love a good hug so much that I'm actually a part of a worldwide organization called Free Mom Hugs. And our mission is to make sure that those in the LGBTQ plus communities know that they are loved and accepted. And if they cannot get the necessary support from their families and the hugs needed that it really takes to live a healthy and happy life, that we're there to do that. We go to as many events as possible and just stand there. And if someone needs a hug, we're there to give it to them. What I discovered during the pandemic was how much those hugs were doing for me. As you can imagine, it's been a very difficult time for the hugger, especially during the pandemic, and those even more so that live alone, and even more critical for those who suffer from mental health issues. And let's be honest, if you are someone who has not struggled with mental health issues during this pandemic, you are a very small group of people, and you should really be grateful because it has affected nearly everyone. The rest of us, huggers, we need that embrace more than most people do. And so it was a very difficult time for us. When someone receives a hug, for most people, their body releases a hormone and neurotransmitter, oxytocin. It often is referred to as the love hormone. Increased levels of oxytocin have been attributed to happiness and the reduction of stress and anxiety. Not only do increased levels of oxytocin make you feel good mentally, it can also help you feel good physically. Increased levels of oxytocin can decrease levels of cortisol. Decreased cortisol levels can improve the body's natural ability to fight illness and boost the immune system. So today, on International Hug Day, my recommendation is hug as many people as you can today. Of course, when it's appropriate and if it's safe, not just for yourself, but you never know how much the person receiving the hug may need it. Thank you. And now I get to introduce our general evaluator for today, Denny Mason.
Hi, everybody. So we have an evaluation team today that's part of our Toastmasters experience, and people take different roles to help us with that evaluation. Our first person today is going to be our grammarian, Heather Davis.
Thank you, Denny. I am the grammarian today, which I will be giving you a word, and I should have said it before Denise because she said it quite a few times, which is hugger. I just wanted to make it simple. Hopefully you guys can incorporate it in your sentences for table talk. I'll be keeping track, and at the end of this meeting, I'll let you know who was able to say it. And then I'm also incorporating the definition of hugger in the chat, which is a person who enjoys hugging and who hugs as often as possible. So that is what I'll be looking out for today, and I'll pass it back to Denny.
Thank you, Heather. That's a good word for today. Then we have Farron as our counter today.
Thank you, Denny. I will be counting everyone's crutch words. I feel like I said a lot during my intro, didn't catch them all. Crutch words are the things that you say in place of a pause, like and, so, but, you know, well, things like that. I will be keeping track of everyone's crutch words and reporting at the end of the meeting.
Thanks, Farron. And Joey is going to step in as our timer today. Joey.
Thank you, Denny. And I am a hugger, but when it comes to timing, I don't like to be timed, as many of you know about me. I like to just babble on sometimes, but this is what we do here at Toastmasters to keep people like myself, who are huggers and talkers, from babbling on. And our speech for today, I think, is 5 to 7 minutes. I think that's right, Sarah. Can't see on the screens here. 5 to 7. Yep. And then we will do table topics, we'll do table topics, which will be a 1 to 2 minute speech. Our table topics master will present some sort of a topic, and then we will talk on that topic between 1 to 2 minutes. And then our evaluator will evaluate Sarah's speech, will be between about a 2 to 3 minute speech. And I will be taking all the times there and evaluating at the end.
Thanks, Joey. And will you also, you're going to be our Zoom master today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you want to tell us about that?
Yep, real quick. So what's nice about the Zooms is that we got a lot of video going on. So what the Zoom master does is we'll zoom in on the people speaking. Right now, it looks like Denny's on here. So let me take her off so she doesn't feel kind of weird that I'm talking to her and she's the only face on there. And we will zoom in on the faces, especially like with the speaker and the evaluator goes, be able to put both screens up. When we get to in-person meetings, what we'll do is we have a video recorder and we'll record our speakers and then be able to, it's crazy that I can actually say this because we're getting back to this hopefully, and send the videos to them via Dropbox or whatnot. So Zoom Master, a little different when we're online because we're just managing the meeting and making sure that it flows. And then in person, we'll be videotaping the videos for the speakers and sending those out to them so that they can look at the videos and see if there's anything in there that maybe distracts from their message. So that's what I'll be doing today, is I'll be controlling the video paneling of the meeting.
Awesome, Joey. Thank you. Our evaluation team is here to make us better. So we'll have reports at the end of the meeting. And I'm going to turn this back over to Denise.
Thank you, Denny. It is my honor to introduce our one and only speaker for today, Miss Sarah Dawson. Sarah is giving her speech out of the Visionary Pathway. She is the executive director of Evangel Home, a homeless shelter for women and children. She is currently in the initial stages of research to see what other ways the home can help a woman from a cycle of crisis to established and thriving. Today, she is presenting research for one of those options. Her speech is titled, "What's Next?" Please give a wave for Sarah Dawson.
Thank you so much, Denise. And I would totally give you a hug right now if I could. Thank you. I am also a very, very much a hugger. So thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. There are so many different ideas, like in what's next. It's a lot of fun to be able to develop and to think about, what are you going to do the next thing? We have this space, we have these kind of things, and there's so many different ideas out there. This that I'm talking about today is just going to be one of those ideas. And the idea behind it is it would be a child care center that would be open 24/7 for women who are just getting done with a long-term program and who need to go back into the workforce, but they may be working on non-traditional hours. So that's a brief snippet of what it would be. It's just the beginning of the idea and see where it goes. There's lots of questions to be pondering. So question for you, how many of you have ever either been to a daycare yourself or had to send your child to a daycare? Nice, several of you. And if you don't mind unmuting yourselves and just talking about what was it like to either send your child there or to go yourself?
I can speak on this. I've had a good experience and a bad experience. It's so heartbreaking to have to take your kids to daycare when they first go. But then there's places that just really help your child develop. And so you're really glad that they're getting that experience and socialization. So it's twofold. You have to be in a good place and you have to put them in a good place. So
Wow. Thank you. That's very, thank you, Denise. very eye-opening. It's true. I don't have any children myself, but I have watched several of the residents from Evangel Home have to struggle with this. They have maybe come from an atmosphere where they've always been on welfare, or they've never had to work a job, and now they're starting to work a job, but now who's going to take care of their kids? They've always done that, and in between there. So I would imagine it would be a struggle to be able to trust somebody else, because many of the women who come to us have not had trust. I think one of the main things in here is that the daycare could possibly be trauma informed, where we're dealing with like having them go to not only to the child care center, but also have the entire family involved in trauma recovery, like therapeutic services alongside of that to help them recover. There's a couple of questions that were just in my mind as I was preparing this speech, and I'm not even sure if they're the right questions, but these are the questions that have been on my mind. Is what program, if any, will have the greatest impact on a woman or child's eternity or stay on earth? That's a very big question, and probably not even answerable, because who knows? God's in charge of eternity, so we'll see on that one. But also, one of the things that I was looking into, what would it impact if we gave a woman the opportunity to send her child to a daycare type of situation like that? What would it even mean for them? One of the things, we just recently got to hear a lecture from the Resiliency Center. It's part of the chaplaincy program here in Fresno, and they go out and deal with kids who have dealt with trauma, which, by the way, probably at least 75% of our residents have experienced some sort of trauma in their life, at least one, and usually multiple, that have gotten them to the place that they have. But according to the stats from the Resiliency Center, they said it's 4.5 times more likely for somebody affected by trauma to develop depression, 7.4 times as likely to become an alcoholic, 11 times more likely to use illegal intravenous drugs, and 14 times more likely to attempt suicide than the average person. So to me, looking at that type of statistic, if there's a way that you could help the kid when they first experience a trauma to not go to that place, it's something that we should probably look into to see, is it something that's going to be beneficial? Is it going to help them in the long term? Is it going to help them be able to do that? Another person that I was able to talk to was a director of a Head Start program. And she was saying that sometimes kids who have experienced trauma aren't even ready to begin a program like Head Start. So they're already not able to join in other things that kids might be able to, because they haven't experienced it. So possibly having a program where it helps the mom and the kid deal with that trauma before they get into that, they'll be able to utilize other resources that are already available out to them. Another person we talked to was Dr. Soria from the Fresno County Office of Education. She was saying that there's currently only about 15% of those who need non-traditional hours. So that would be outside of the 9 to 5 type of hours. So anybody who's needing that, about 15% of them are receiving services that are needed. So there is a big opportunity to be able to go out there. The next question is, even if it's needed, which probably is, and there's more research. I think, like I said in the beginning, we're still in the early stages of just researching this. So these aren't like solid, complete statistics, but they're just the beginning initial stages of, is this even possible? Is it doable? Is it something that's needed? So the second question would be, is this the most efficient use of resources to help the women and children who come to our home? The average cost, does anybody have a guess of how much it costs per year for an infant to go to a child care center for a year?
I'm going to say 8,000.
Anybody else have a guess?
10.
10. So according to the statistics from kidsdata.org in Fresno County, for an infant, it's $13,206 on average. For a preschooler, it's $9,290 per year. That is a heck of a lot of money to be able to put into a daycare. So on average, if you say a woman, if she just starts off in a new job, she's probably going to make minimum wage. That's $24,000 a year. If she has 2 kids, that's her entire income going into daycare. So it is super expensive, but is it worth it? So then I started looking at, well, these kids, if they're not helped now, what are their expected life outcomes? it is highly likely that at least one or more of them would end up either in the juvenile justice system at some point or incarcerated. It is highly likely because there's generational welfare, where if you're on welfare as a kid, then you kind of stay on welfare. Average cost per person right now, according to the federalsafetynet.com, is that welfare cost per person is about $22,740 per person per year. And for somebody who's incarcerated, there were numbers that varied. The Resiliency Center website had quoted $71,000 for somebody who's $71,000 per year for somebody who's incarcerated. And another study from the Justice Policy Institute said that it's could be up to $300,000 per year for a juvenile offender if they're in California Youth Authority, which is the long-term prison basically for kids. So it averages out to quite a bit. So cost for 10 infants, if you just did 10 infants per year, would be $130,000 per year. It seems like it would probably pay off even in just the monetary portion of it, let alone the social emotional pieces of that. That's the beginning of this research to see, is this something, this concept, this idea of having a child care center available for these women, something that's doable? We'll find out, and hopefully I'll get to keep you updated on that as time goes on, whether we go for it or we're not. I'll let you know, but there's your initial stats. Thank you so much. Back to my hugger friend, Denise. Yay.
Oh, Sarah, what a great speech. What great information. I think we all need to take into our hearts and realize it's very emotional. I don't know how you do it, but yeah, that's a perfect example of what privilege means that people seem to get so offended about today. But that if you don't have to struggle with those obstacles in life, that's a privilege, and I'm grateful I had that privilege. So thank you for sharing. I'm really interested on what I can do as a volunteer. And so that's, yeah, I want to hear more, definitely. So thank you for that. Next we have since we only have one speaker today, we're going to do table topics. And our table topics, oh, you know what? We
Did you want to
plan
have
for
your
it originally, excuse me. So how about I just ask everybody to share a little bit about what hugging means to you, if you're a hugger, if you're not a hugger. And we'll start with Farron.
Actually, I was in charge of table topics. I don't know if it was on the agenda.
Oh.
But also, did you want to have your guest give her talk first?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah.
Wait, hello everyone. I just want to say I just recently got my master's in communication. So everything that you all are doing is so amazing. And this meeting has been extremely interesting to me. So I have really enjoyed being here. So I appreciate the invite to come and speak to you all. So what I'm here to talk about is the Best Buddies Ambassador Training. So our Best Buddies in general is a nonprofit organization that helps people with disabilities. And so we do that through a couple different pillars. We have our friendship pillar, our jobs pillar, our leadership pillar, and our living pillar. So I'm here to speak to you all about our leadership pillar. And our leadership pillar is actually very similar to what you all are doing here at Toastmasters. And so that is why we feel like your club is such a great place to reach out to kind of ask for assistance or potentially even volunteers. So we have a ambassador training coming up. And just to kind of give a little preview of what an ambassador training is it is a training for people with disabilities to help gain self-confidence and self-advocacy through public speaking. So what we do is we create a space for these people to kind of write down, whether it be like a story of their past, how they got to where they are now, or really anything that they want to learn to speak more confidently about. So how we do that is through the help of our speech coaches. And so what speech coaches do is that they are partnered one-on-one with someone who has a disability, and they're there to kind of help brainstorm, organize, edit, And they're really there to kind of help support our ambassadors on their journey of self-discovery or even self-advocacy. So as a speech coach, if you were to agree or choose to volunteer, what you would be doing is you would really be kind of a sounding board, a confidant, and a supporter as they create their speech to help them towards their growth of self-advocacy. So if this is something that you're interested in being, it is technically a 3-day commitment because we are doing it virtual now. So I believe Denise said that maybe 1 or 2 of you have been a speech coach before. Typically it's like an all-day event, but what we do now is because of COVID, we have it virtual. So you pick a time with your ambassador to meet up within the first 2 days. And so you spend maybe like 30 minutes to an hour writing the speech and kind of getting it prepped. And then on the last day, we have presentations. So very similar to this meeting where they come forward and speak on the speech that they wrote. So these days are August 10th, 11th, and 12th, and it would be purely virtual. And you work with your ambassador on when it would be best for you all to meet. I have a file that I can go ahead. Let's see if I can drop it in the chat. If not, I can always email it to Denise to send out to you all. But does anyone have any questions about ambassador training, best buddies, or anything like that? Yeah.
I think you did a really good job explaining it, Macy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it just the 1 3-day time, or are you guys going to be consistently doing this in the future?
Yeah, so we have 2 ambassador trainings a year, but each ambassador training we kind of recruit for volunteers. So probably the next one I'll reach out to Denise again to see if any of you all are interested. But if you do choose to be a speech coach, it is just this one-time commitment.
Yeah, and I just say from past experience, and I still remember my buddy Danny. I had the best time. He had the best sense of humor. We were perfectly matched. It was such a great experience. I unfortunately am busy this year, but so if anybody wants to think about it after the meeting, reach out to me. It really is great. Do you know when you'll be meeting in person again, Macy?
Hopefully before the end of this year, but
Good.
I know that I work on the jobs team mainly, and we are going back in person for all of our job coaching and things like that. So we're kind of slowly moving in. And so hopefully at the end of, well, I guess this one's at the end of the year. So the beginning of next year, we'll have an in-person one.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. I love what you guys do.
If you don't mind, I'd love to stay for the rest of your meeting just because I'm very interested in your club. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I'd love to hear everything. Yeah, I miss doing speeches and things like that, so it's fun. But I'm also going to put my email in the chat and the dates, but you all can go ahead and continue on with your meeting as well.
All right, hold on one second. So Macy, before you do that, I got it looks like we're still kind of on the free account. So we're still figuring out what's going on here. Do you see that timer up there? Does everybody see that? Okay. Yes. So what I did was I created another, it's like a personal meeting so that we can just switch over to that one. Hopefully it'll reset everything. We can finish this. Okay. So let me put this in the chat. Speaking of chats. So click over to this meeting. And so I guess leave this one and then I'll start this one. We'll see how this goes. Okay, and we'll try and finish it. Otherwise, we got 5.5 minutes. We got to finish the rest of this. It's not going to happen. All right, when everybody's out, I will start. All right, so we'll end.